Hey guys, welcome to A Tea Party, a podcast where two Asian American high school students give you the latest tea on down the middle politics and what it's like to be a student from our generation, all while drinking tea. And I'm sorry to disappoint, but I actually am not drinking tea right now.
Well, that's too bad. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking, it's called melon mat uyu, which is melon milk in Korean. What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking tea, but this time, instead of a fancy green tea, I'm doing a plain Irish breakfast tea, which is very strong.
Irish tea? Interesting.
Okay, guys, we're really sorry about not doing our introductions properly last time, so we're going to do it now. I'm Sean, and I was born in Taiwan and moved here to the US in 2012. Right now, I'm a sophomore in high school, residing in Washington State, along with Eunice at the same school.
And I am said Eunice. I'm a sophomore at Scotland High School as well. I was born in Canada, but I've been living in the United States since I was around 1. And I'm Korean American.
Just for your information, I do play the violin.
And I play flute and piano, and we are debate kids.
We are, but we're not intense like the other debate kids that you might know.
Yeah, we're not like speech and debate.
How are you doing, Eunice?
I am, well, kind of tired. I've been reading a lot of news lately, and that's pretty much all I've been doing. How about you, Sean?
I've been continuing my academic spree, though not in the same intensity or enthusiasm, I suppose.
Your academic spree as in tutoring?
Yes, I'm still getting tutored in a lot of subjects that we are currently not learning in school.
Good luck, Sean.
But things are getting better. I've also been cultivating my culinary interest.
Culinary? What have you been making?
I've been making strawberry ice cream, which failed drastically because I added too much sugar.
That's fine. At least you tried. I mean, it's just all about practice, right? Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, you'd think the sugar would make it better, right? But no, it didn't even freeze. My ice cream is just...
If you do happen to make some legitimate strawberry ice cream and this quarantine ends soon, could you please get me some?
Yes.
Thank you.
If I perfect it, I will absolutely hand it.
I appreciate it.
Okay, let's move on to news. So in this week's news, we're going to be talking about a lot of acronyms. We're going to be talking about IGOs, INGOs, and MNCs. Let me break it down for you. For IGOs, which stands for Intergovernmental Organizations, we're talking about organizations like the UN, United Nations, or the EU, the European Union. So with our IGO news, we're going to be talking about the World Health Organization. They're in charge of the well-being of people around the world, especially among their UN member nations. So they have officially declared COVID-19 as a pandemic as of the 11th of March in 2020, meaning that it's very common everywhere. And they also named the virus to remove any geographic or racial references. And the UN, the larger organization, has started to ease sanctions on countries which are fighting this disease. So that means more economic support and backing so that as a whole, the human population can quickly recover. And they're also trying to fight COVID-19 on the internet. Since the virus is mutated and found a way into our internet lives, we can contract the virus just from looking at our phones. Just kidding. It's not in the physical sense, but in the memes sense, if you will. So all the misinformation on the internet is seriously hindering global efforts to curb our response of this disease. Eunice, have you seen any fake news recently?
I have heard some fake news from Twitter. Like, you should wash all your fruits and vegetables with soap. Absolutely incorrect. Don't wash your fruits and vegetables with soap. Soap is not meant for consumption. Things like that.
One of the most ridiculous things I've heard so far is that you need to wash your eyes out every day 3 times with 75% isopropyl alcohol.
That is wild. Don't do that.
It's rubbing alcohol.
We do not endorse that as a podcast. We just like to say.
So anyway, fake news. The UN is definitely trying to fight that onto internet. Moving on. International non-governmental organizations. Eunice, can you name a couple for me?
There are organizations like Amnesty International.
That's correct. There's also Doctors Without Borders, which is surprisingly relevant in our times. And they have all been trying to fight using their specialities, other aspects of human life, which the government can't quite control. So human rights violations for Amnesty during this panic And Doctors Without Borders have opened a live chat type Zoom discussion and a Facebook Live discussion. If you're interested, please go to our show notes and click on the link, and you'll be sent right there. And they're opening new medical projects all around the world where there are hotspots of COVID. Finally, we move on to multinational corporations. They're companies which sell stock in one country but do business all around the world. The news that we're going to discuss today is mainly based on 3M and Purell. 3M is the company that sells you scissors and tape and Post-its on back to school day. But they're also the ones that manufacture those expensive and rare N95 respirator masks.
You might have heard that supplies such as N95s have been selling out in stores nationwide and internationally. But the 3M CEO Mike Roman said in an interview that every respirator mask that's available right now should be going to the healthcare workers on the front lines, since N95s are more ineffective in daily life and should only be used when you're actually interacting with confirmed COVID patients.
Don't panic about N95s not being on your local store shelves because they're needed elsewhere. In fact, 3M, the largest maker of these masks, they said that they're working with federal and state authorities to not increase prices for these respirators despite the surging demand. And they've also ramped up production to double its global output to nearly 100 million masks a month. So they're doing a good job protecting us. So please, don't panic, don't go out and buy all the masks, and stay home.
And also, if you have a stockpile of N95s or other type of surgical masks, please consider donating them to your local hospital in case that they need them, because there's been shortages nationwide.
Yep, we really appreciate it if you can help keep our medical professionals safe. If you get sick later on, we can care for you because our medical professionals aren't sick.
Yes.
The other company we're going to talk about is Purell. So that's simple enough. They manufacture hand sanitizer. And although they're claiming that operations are running 24/7, they haven't actually given any statistics regarding how much they're increasing production. They only specified that they will produce many millions of bottles and refills each day.
We would also like to say that if you're out of Purell is not the be-all, end-all of anti-COVID solutions. So just wash your hands, honestly.
True. Such facts.
Such facts. Now, for this week's politics, mostly centered around the U.S. As of this week, the U.S. has surpassed the rest of the world in the number of coronavirus cases. As of right now, the live count of the U.S. is 105,573. And the second most number of cases is in Italy, which is 86,000.
By the time that this podcast goes out, the numbers will probably be higher,
as they are exponentially increasing. Additionally, a $2 trillion relief bill has been passed. Within this bill, most adults will get a single $1,200 check, plus some additional money if they have qualifying children 16 or under. And this check might vary based on your 2019 tax return, so make sure to check the New York Times website in the show notes for more details. Additionally, even though the federal government has not initiated an official stay-at-home order, 70% of Americans are being ordered to stay home by local or state officials. This week of recording, which is the fourth week of March, 3.3 million Americans filed for unemployment, which is a huge surge and the highest it's ever been in decades. The unemployment rate is likely to rise as the weeks go by and more businesses close due to social distancing. 11 states plus Puerto Rico have postponed presidential primaries, and others have switched to mail only. Activists around the country are still calling for mortgage and rent freezes due to a lack of income for those who cannot work at home.
Welcome to our new segment, How Did This Happen? How Did This Happen? A segment where we talk about how Americans manage to do things differently than the rest of the world. We started this segment because, well, schools are closed, which means it's up to us to spew out random trivia.
Hello, Future Sean here editing the podcast. I just wanted to include the context in which we included this new segment. Our reasoning for including this segment is mainly because of a student, one of our classmates, was asking us about the situation with moderates in the current political system in America. As you know, the $2 trillion relief bill passed by Congress took a few days to get through Congress while the rest of the nation was patiently waiting. We just wanted to explain the reason behind this wait, and why, in other cases, Congress also seemed inefficient. So, as debate kids, we had compiled information about the two-party system, moderates, as well as compromises. And with this information, we shed new light on why the political system with policymaking seems so inefficient. This is in no way supposed to be partisan. If you decide that this is offending or that you dislike the content in this segment, please email us at atpartypodcast@gmail.com so we may revise how we use this segment in the future. Thank you. Now back to the podcast.
This week we're talking about polarization, one of the things that Americans do best. Here in America, we have a two-party system. What you may also know is that these two parties absolutely hate each other. They do not like working together, they do not like compromising, which is why Congress, the Senate and the House, take a long time to get your bills of opposition on one side.
I thought moderates would solve the problem.
The thing about moderates is that they aren't exactly straight in the middle. For example, moderate Democrats are known to be fiscally Republican, but socially Democrat. So moderates do have a stance on all issues like Democrats and Republicans do. They just aren't 100% always aligned on either side. And one may think that moderates may help lessen the polarization in the United States, but actually there aren't enough moderates in Congress to actually make an effect. When you see midterms come around, for example, 2018, the most common phrase used in the news is winning the House or winning the Senate. In this case, currently, the Republicans have won the Senate and the Democrats have won the House. The reason why they say this is because you need a certain number of votes in order to pass any bill in either the House or the Senate. Usually, this means that you need to gain a certain number of Democratic seats or Republican seats because people like voting in Democrats that consistently vote Democrat, which means not exactly moderates.
So no one likes voting moderate. Gotcha.
Okay, let's move on to our PSAs for this week. Public service announcements. Number 1, think before you send. I know that a lot of us are on our phones a lot more, so make sure while you're on social media to think before you hit send, and don't contribute to the harassment problem. Number 2, check out Apple's new COVID-19 app and website. Apple being the company, not the fruit. The new app and website allows users to answer a series of questions around risk factors, recent exposure, and symptoms. And they use these factors to determine whether if you are eligible for a COVID-19 test. Make sure to do this if you have any concern regarding whether you need to be concerned.
This episode is not sponsored by Apple, by the way. We wish, but alas.
We wish.
Wash your hands, follow your local and state guidelines, and make sure to keep up to date on the latest news.
Okay, speaking of catching up with the news, it's time for our random shenanigans segment.
Or as I like to call it, the random segment. And then you can bleep that out.
Very well. Do you know that Sling TV is helping us by offering a 14-day free usage program? No credit card required. You can just sign up and you can get 14 days. Eunice, do you have cable?
I believe I do have cable, actually. Yeah, I do.
We cut our cable service a long time ago. The thing is, just looking at online news is not enough. And the websites like Wall Street Journal and CNN always tells you to subscribe. And I really just cannot.
At least the New York Times is offering free coronavirus updates, especially even if you do not have a subscription. So you should also check that out too.
Okay. It's hard to keep up with the news down to a T, but maybe this is my chance.
Speaking of keeping up, I really need to keep up with the latest theater releases. I really hope that Disney releases their new movie Onward on Disney Plus as soon as possible, because I can't wait to see it. And I didn't see it in the theaters.
Oh, it's a new animated movie?
Yes. Starring some of the biggest stars.
I'm looking at the poster right now. Isn't that the one with Tom Holland? Nice. I really, if that comes out, please give me your account so I can watch it.
Of course, but
I've been recently looking at all these news articles, and there's one talking about how you can sync up Netflix.
What do you mean?
Just with a browser extension. The browser extension will open up your Netflix at the same time as your friend, and then you can watch. Okay,
that's pretty cool. That sounds
like we need to do that sometime.
A great idea, especially with all the social distancing. But you can also do it over a Discord call.
That sounds kind of illegal.
Well, it's not screen recording. It's just, well, actually, But I don't know. I'm not endorsing illegal activity on this podcast. I just want to say.
A Tea Party, this podcast, is not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. It is meant for entertainment purposes only. Seriously, guys.
By listening to this podcast, you agreeing not to follow our legal advice?
We're not giving legal advice.
That's a disclaimer.
Personal.
There we go. Okay, tweet of the week.
Yes.
Would you like to read it, Sean?
I would love to read it. I actually found it on my Twitter feed this morning, and I just find it so humorous. It's a tweet by Hank Green, at Hank Green. It has almost 6,000 likes and almost 1,000 retweets. And here's what it says. Lawful good, COVID-19. Lawful neutral, COVID. Lawful evil, SARS-CoV-2. Neutral good, coronavirus. True neutral, corona. Neutral evil, corona flu. Chaotic neutral is the coronavirus, and the chaotic evil.
Chinese virus or Chinese flu. Or the kung flu, which, by the way, if you ever say don't, just don't. Please don't. It's kind of racist. Actually, it's very racist.
To be honest, I look up these D&D memes that I don't really understand because I don't play D&D, but I know some of you do. So here you go. A little sprinkle of geekdom.
What?
Geekdom? Geekdom.
Oh, you said geek.
Geekness.
Don't say geekdom, please. Don't say it.
I just made that word up on the spot. What do you expect?
Oh my god.
Okay.
What, were we just talking about D&D?
What? The lawful good, lawful neutral? That is D&D. That's a D&D
This is
chart.
not D&D.
Yeah, it is. Lawful, neutral, chaotic, good, neutral, evil.
The D&D chart?
It's a D&D chart. Dungeons and Dragons.
What? I'm
never looked
on
it
the Wikipedia page right now. This is all D&D.
Yes, this is all.
You learn something new every day. How's being a student treating you right now, Sean, with your tutoring and everything?
I would say that we're kind of back on track. Maybe. Not
Not really. Our district isn't taking any work for grades or credit, so.
If you guys don't know, our district uses Teams and Microsoft Office as our main way of learning. They've shut it down, but our Block Humanities teacher has recently been posting on Teams about all sorts of essays that.
But if they're optional, then who's going to write it? People have been writing them?
People have been writing
Are you
it.
kidding
I've
me?
seen. Yes. Okay.
I mean, as far as my teachers go, I believe my chem teacher has been posting assignments, but honestly, since nothing is for a grade, people aren't really doing anything. It's kind of depressing. We don't even have a Zoom classes. I really wanted to experience a Zoom class, you know, like the notorious. Have you seen the memes, Sean? On Twitter, there's literally so many memes about like
I'm
Zoom classes, like, oh, me and my friends in a Zoom class or something like that. And I've always wanted to like relate to those memes, but we can't because there's no Zoom classes. We never experienced that. And then,
wow.
I have a tweet put up right now. You guys have probably seen it. It has 1.2 million likes on Twitter, so everyone's seen it. And it's the tweet says, my professor is 74 and he isn't confident using Zoom, so he's pre-recorded the rest of our classes. Today I watched the first one. He has a Pinocchio doll in the front row because he isn't comfortable teaching to an empty room. I'm social distancing for this man and this man only. And there's a photo attached of the professor teaching to a Pinocchio doll, and it's so precious. Are you telling me you've never seen this tweet?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sending it to you right now.
I have never seen those tweets.
Okay, survey.
Oh, yes. Let me explain this one. So basically, I know it sounds weird, but we're looking for individuals who are students who also happen to be doing random things during this period of quarantine. So we're going to send out a survey. It's going to be in the show notes. Please, 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 if you're interested, fill it out. We're just going to be asking a multiple choice question. We aren't going to reveal any names or anything, but just multiple choice questions about what you've been doing over this quarantine period. We just want this data so that I know all of you are interested in what students are doing. We're just going to use this data to provide a statistic on what most of us is.
So go check out the show notes.
Thank you guys so much for listening. So now we're going to be guessing our phrases of the week. The phrase of the week is a new segment that we've included so that we keep each other entertained and that we don't lose our focus. So you feel free to also listen for our phrases of the week and guess before we do. It's a mental challenge for both of us.
Hello, this is Future Sean again, editing this podcast. I just want to inform you guys that if you have any phrase of the week ideas or any other questions that you'd like us to answer or advice that you'd like us to give from our positions, please feel free to head over to a Tea Party Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com to submit your ideas. We would love to include you into our podcast. That is atpartypodcast@gmail.com. Now back to the podcast.
Why don't you go first?
I'm gonna be completely honest. Is this something about D&D?
I don't know. Is it?
I'm gonna assume it's something about D&D because that was the most tangent-y thing / out of context weird thing that you've said this entire podcast was a D&D.
No, it wasn't. Okay, because I actually wasn't trying to trick you with that tangent, but it was actually down to a T.
It was down to a... Oh my god. I thought that's like... that's like a normal phrase though. That's not very weird.
No, but like I've never heard of it. No, I was struggling to include it because I didn't know how to use it. So I had to include it at the bit where we ended up talking about catching up with the news. Because I don't know where to put it.
I did not catch that.
So I assume it's my turn?
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna fall flat on my face because I really did not catch yours either. I don't remember anything weird particularly. Was it like out of context maybe?
Maybe.
Oh, well, yeah. We also went on a tangent about the Zoom classes. As you noted.
Yes, we did.
Oh, am I getting closer?
you ish, just ish.
Ish? That's better than I expected. So Zoom, like that whole segment.
Yeah.
What was something weird in that segment?
I don't know. You tell me.
The tweet, the Pinocchio doll.
It was the Pinocchio. I just wanted to put the Pinocchio tweet somewhere in there, like just the phrase Pinocchio doll or something. Like,
look at me! Look at me! First try. Oh. I got it. First try.
First try. I hate this. Okay, I'm not the type of person to think about like the intricacies while we're speaking. So like.
I still can't believe it. I thought it'd like take a lot of practice, but this is kind of good. This is great.
Okay, you get one win. Okay, this is our second episode, so you can't hold it over my head. It's not like you have a streak or something. So just take your win and go.
Speaking of streaks, it's gonna be Sean to Eunice 1-0.
Yeah, I know. I have to okay. In that case, we're gonna end the episode here. Thank you guys for listening. Our podcast is distributed on Anchor. We also have an Instagram, which is at a Tea Party Podcast on Instagram, and a YouTube channel, which is also a Tea Party Podcast. We're going to link all of this down below in the show notes.
Okay, Eunice, thank you for potting with me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. This episode was edited by Sean Fan and produced by the both of us, Eunice Trope and Sean Fan. This episode was recorded on Anchor.fm. The music you're hearing right now at the beginning of the podcast and in episodes previous is by the one and only Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, composed for his famous opera, The Magic Flute. You can email us your questions, concerns, complaints, suggestions for phrases of the week, or anything else that you'd like to our email, ateapartypodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's ateapartypodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on our Instagram and our YouTube, and as the Green Brothers always say, don't forget to be awesome.